Chairman of the Democratic National Committee, Ken Martin. Mr. Chairman, good morning. Your reaction to the news that it looks inevitable at this point that this bill will pass?
Well, it's shameful. And look, here's the deal. These cowardly Republicans who refuse to meet with their constituents, who clearly don't have a spine, has put their fealty to Donald Trump and his billionaire friends ahead of the constituents that they were elected to serve. As we know, this is the most unpopular bill in over a half a century. There's no provision in this bill that people in this country support. And guess what? This is a betrayal of the people that these Republicans were supposed to serve. Think about this. This is a betrayal to seniors in this country, where over a quarter of nursing homes are going to close and we're going to have to throw seniors out into the streets. This is a betrayal to children, where we're cutting SNAP benefits, and 3 million children, at least 3 million children, are going to go without food because of this disastrous bill. This is a betrayal to the disabled when we throw 17 million people off of their health care. This is a betrayal to rural communities. We're going to close 300 hospitals and clinics throughout this country, and people are going to have struggle to find health care throughout this country. And it is a betrayal to workers in this country. Just in the building trades alone, 1.75 million jobs are going to be lost because of this bill. This is one of the biggest betrayals we've seen in recent history. And we're going to remind voters next year, trust me, this is not going to go well for Republicans. And someone said this earlier, they are handing us a gift on a silver platter. But the problem with all of this is, while it might be good politically, it's going to be disastrous for the American people, who are going, their lives are going to be shattered, and communities are going to be afflicted with a lot of pain over the coming years because of this bill.
Yeah, the politics should take a back seat to what's actually going to happen to real people because of this bill. But it is your job as the chair of the DNC to win elections, to help win elections for the Democratic Party. So as you move forward, we should point out the midterm elections everyone's talking about are 16 months away. We're not talking about this fall. There's a lot of time between now and then, and we know how things change and happen so quickly, particularly in this political environment we live in today. So how do you, as someone charged with keeping the message alive, how do you continue to push that all the way and try to win the House and the Senate?
Well, as you know, we've already held 130 town halls throughout the country in Republican districts because the Republicans refuse to do their job and meet with their constituents. And we're going to continue up that pressure, not just to obviously stop a bill, but to make sure that Republicans are held accountable throughout this country for their vote on this bill. Yeah, there's a long time between now and the elections of 26. We have elections in 25, critical elections in New Jersey, Virginia, Pennsylvania, over 100,000 elections on the ballot, local elections on the ballot, that we're going to compete in this fall and this summer. And there's no doubt that in many cases, those elections will be a referendum on what happened here in Washington, D.C., and we're going to continue that pressure. We're doing that right now with our Organizing Summer campaign, and I would encourage your listeners, if you want to join our organizing efforts to hold Republicans accountable throughout the country, text ACTION to 43367. ACTION to 43367 to join our Organizing Summer campaign. We're going to turn up the heat, make sure Republicans are held accountable for their disastrous vote on this bill, and make sure that we're putting ourselves in a position to win back the majority in the U.S. House of Representatives, in the U.S. Senate, and elections up and down the ballot next year. Look, this is a critical time for our party. More importantly, it's a critical time for this country, and the Democratic Party is the only thing standing in the way of this full-on authoritarian regime having an unimpeded path to do whatever the hell they want to inflict more pain and damage in this country.
Hey, Ken, it's Ali Vitale. I hear the point that you're making, and I actually agree that the issues within this bill really dovetail nicely with where Democrats seem to be finding success on messaging. Concepts like affordability and health care have been good for y'all in the past, not just recently in the New York City mayoral race. But I also can't help but think about the way that, political gifts were talked about back in 2016 when I had Hillary Clinton staffers saying to me, Trump is a political gift, and we saw the way that turned out. So how can advocates who have been worried about the Democratic messaging and the way that y'all relate to voters, how can you assuage them at this point when gifts have been squandered in the past?
Well, I think it's a fair point, Ali, but let me just tell you, this is the most unpopular piece of legislation that we've seen in over a half of a century, right? Look, we're not underestimating Donald Trump. I think people underestimated Donald Trump before. We didn't, a lot of folks in our party didn't believe how bad he was going to be as president. And sure enough, I think the difference now is, all of those independent voters and Republican voters who voted for Donald Trump are having deep buyer's remorse because he said to them on day one that he was going to improve their lives. He was going to strengthen their communities. He was going to make their lives more affordable and help them actually climb the economic ladder and achieve success for their family. He hasn't focused one bit on that. And this is an opportunity for the Democratic Party to expand our coalition, to bring people back into our party, back into the conversation by fighting for them. And I'll tell you right now, we're not going to squander that opportunity. I think you see the unity amongst Democrats throughout the country and fighting back against this bill, and certainly making sure that we're positioning ourselves to win. Look, don't make no mistake about it. The Democratic Party, we're here to fight, we're here to win, and we're here to make sure that we actually give American people a sense that their better days are ahead of them, and that this bullshit bill that they see right now in Congress, that's not going to happen if you put Democrats back in power.
Getting in some colorful language before 9 a.m. there, but I sense the frustration, and it's echoed, frankly, from those on Capitol Hill, including Jeffries, who's still speaking. But I wonder then if you can take us inside the map, because at the end of the day, none of it really matters unless you can retake the House and much more difficultly the Senate. But look at for viewers some of the districts that we should be looking at going forward. As you see Republicans taking a tough vote here, Fitzpatrick, of course, could be a no vote, explained by the fact that he's in a swing district. But where else should people be looking, and where else are you targeting on the ground?
Well, there's a number of districts. Look, we've been able to actually, Ali, expand out the map over the last few months, where we started with a much more narrow list of targets for the House. We've seen an overperformance in 35 special elections on the ballot since Donald Trump was inaugurated. We have overperformed in all of them and won in many of those elections. What does that suggest? It suggests as we head into the 26 elections, where we only need 3 seats to win back the U.S. House, that we have been able to expand our map and expand the number of opportunities we have to win back the majority. And, the list is so long, I'm not going to go over every one of them. But if you want a list of them, again, text action to 43367, and we will make sure that and your viewers know exactly where we're putting our efforts around the congressional map. On the Senate map, of course, people say, well, it's impossible for us to win the Senate back. Those same people are the ones who said in 2006 that there's no way we were going to win both chambers. And, of course, that wave election helped usher us back into power in both chambers. And think about this. George Bush's numbers in 2005 were higher than Trump's numbers are in 2025. Trump's numbers in 2017, a precursor to another wave election, were higher than they are right now. Again, I think if this trend line continues for the Republican Party, there is a real shot for us to win not just the House back, but the Senate as well. Now, look, we're going to do everything we can. I'm attached to Hakeem Jeffries' hip. Our surest and safest bet to make sure that we stop Donald Trump is to win back the U.S. House, and we've got a great map to be able to do that. And the Senate map is becoming much better for us every day that this disaster continues.
Chairman, let me ask you before we let you go about the results of the New York City mayoral election made official this week that Zohran Mamdani, 33-year-old Democratic socialist, upset an established Democrat with huge name ID in Andrew Cuomo. Some Democrats saying he is the way. That is the future, energizing young voters. Others, particularly Republicans, saying there's your face of the Democratic Party, a socialist. What do you read into his victory in New York?
Well, I think, there's a lot of lessons to learn from that victory. And one is the brilliant campaign that he ran, focused in, very disciplined messaging, focused in on the issues that people care about, on affordability, on making New York City more affordable. He didn't get distracted by all the noise, and he met people where they were at, voters where they were at, both in in-person spaces and in those digital spaces. He ran a brilliant campaign, and there's a lot to learn from how you actually build a coalition, bring people into the conversation. Look, we're a big tent party. We have conservative Democrats, we have centrist Democrats, we have progressives, and then we have these new leftists. And I've always believed that you win elections through addition, not through subtraction. You don't push people out of the conversations. There's no one way to be a Democrat. There's many different ways to be a Democrat. We should celebrate all those. And my job is to support our Democratic nominee, whoever that is. Whoever the primary voters decide is going to be our nominee, it's my job and the Democratic Party's job to fight like hell to help get them elected.
Chairman of the Democratic National Committee, Ken Martin. Mr. Chairman, thanks for your time this morning. We appreciate it.